Alright guys, so this is a stock pump assembly. So completely stock, never been opened, literally just took out of a car. I was supposed to have this modified by CJM, but it just didn't work out. So I'm gonna end up doing this myself. So I'm gonna be completely taking this apart, drilling it, showing you guys how I drilled out the Venturi, which is actually a really hard thing to find online. Nobody really talks about how to really do this. I'm using a Hellcat pump. There's actually no DIY on how to really install a Hellcat pump on this. So I'm gonna try to just figure it out, and hopefully you guys learn how to do this as well. So when you guys are boosting your Z's, it'll be pretty easy. This is the CJM kit. So I removed the fuel level sensor. So the wires you have to unplug are this one and this one, which go on this. And then you gotta remove this one from right here, and then you just pull on the tab that goes right here, and then you'll be able to pull this out. So this is what it looks like. This is stock pump, fuel filter, looks clean. And then this is the Venturi pump, which you have to drill out, which is kind of like the hard part to find out, is just to find out how big this is to get correct idling fuel pressure, so that they could set it to the correct thing. You just got to drill it out enough. So I'm using a 1/8 drill bit on this for a 520 pump. Alrighty guys, so I went ahead and took off the fuel regulator. Because I'm using a return system, it comes with the upgraded version from CJM. It sits right in here like that, and then this cap sits over it. So as you can see, CJM comes with this fitting, and this thing screws into this, in between this plastic, which was previously above this, and it came with this line, which you're going to attach later to this top. And yeah, so before I put this back in with the new fuel regulator, I'm going to remove the fuel pump because it's kind of in the way. Okay, so I went ahead and removed the fuel pump. All you have to do is wedge it off from this top, pull this down, and then the whole thing comes off. Also, you got to remove this connector, which sits on top. So we're basically going to be cutting this whole entire thing right here so that the new pump sits in there, because there is a big size difference that I'll show right now. So the hard part is trying to get a really big pump into the small area and still be able to close down. So yeah, I already took out the Venturi as well. So we still have to drill this out. This sits in the bottom of where the fuel level sensor is. Alrighty guys, so right now I got to make this flat because it looks like this. So in order to put this guy in, so this sits like so. This is the bottom of the fuel pump, this is the top. So this sits in here like this. So you unscrew this, you're gonna slide this part in through the bottom, and this part sits on top. So in order for you to fit this part of the hose through so that you could screw this on top, you have to be able to fit it in there. And in order to do that, you have to flatten out the surface so that it sits nice and flush, and then you got to drill a hole through it so that you could screw this together, flattening to like about this straight line right here, and everything from there I'm flattening out everything so that it's just nice and smooth. Pass this off just to make sure nothing goes inside the internals of the fuel pump. Alrighty guys, so I got this area pretty flat. Sorry, this is all dirty, but it is pretty good, nice and flat. And so there's a hose that runs up this way, so I'm also cutting these fins right here so that the hose just goes, you know, fits in there nice and snug to keep everything compressed. And this would get in the way of it fitting nice and snug, kind of like in this crease, so that it fits in this crease nicely. So I already shaved down one fin. There's 3 fins total, so I'm starting this one, and then I'm gonna cut this one, so this whole area right here should be smooth. I went ahead and drilled out those fins so everything's nice and smooth, so it'll fit in that crack very nicely. And yeah, it'll look really good. This is flat now, so now I can fit that fitting. It'll probably make more sense once I have it on why I did this that way. Got the 520 Hellcat pump right here. This connector right here does not work with this. Also, it also wouldn't fit through this. So you're gonna have to cut the connector if it comes already with it on. And then you're gonna delete this. And so I want this to fit all the way in. So the way I would do that is cut it to match this. And then I would need to, so I wouldn't be able to put this in because this part gets stuck on this lip. So I'm gonna have to cut it somehow so that this slides in enough for this part to go all the way in. Alrighty, so this is what I'm saying. See how this lip is right here, right? So it's not gonna fit, plus this plastic, it's already stuck. And then the little nipple is not all the way in because it's stuck up here. So therefore you have to shave down here to allow this to go all the way in. But the question is, how far does that nipple have to be in? Because as you can see, this little block is also in the way, so I can't shave it down a whole lot, but we'll see. Alrighty, so I got the Hellcat pump in. So as you can see, I cut this part, so I have room for this. Well, I had room for this to come this way. I cut more than I needed to, but it's okay. Also cut the neck because the neck was too long over here, so this was sticking out too much, so that when you put this on, it wouldn't close properly because this is too far out. So I have another one here. I cut the top part, which was up here, so it's not as long, so that it fits in flush. So I cut about, there's 2 rivets on it. I just cut kind of like under that rivet, under the 2 rivets, so that it shortens and it fits nice and snug in there. And yeah, it feels pretty good, pretty solid in there. Shouldn't come out. So next, just want to make sure I explain this right because there's nobody else who has this. So remember, cut this so that it's shorter. I cut it about this much under the 2 rivets, and then I cut this part. I kind of just cut above the 2 little things where this connects, which you can't use this no more because you cut it off. I cut over that so that this has enough room to come up. Obviously I did a little extra, but fits in good. So now I have my wires here, and I'm just gonna connect these to the connectors wires together over there, or you could solder them up here. I don't know how to solder, so I'm not doing that part. Area that was drilled flat, I went ahead and put the hole already. I kind of just put it somewhere towards the middle. I'm not sure if that's the best spot, but I just put it somewhere, a good middle spot. That should be fine. I used this little Dremel piece, and I went up to 1532. That line right there, that's how far I went in, and it fits just good. So this is the fitting. Goes in there like so, and it fits good. See, it's gonna go through the other side like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this up. One goes at the bottom, on the bottom side of the pump, and this side is on top, on the top side of the pump where the connector is. Then you're gonna run this through, and the bottom put this like right here, and then put a nut. There's the nut that comes with it right here, and then this goes on top. I'll show you guys once I put it on. So now it is in, just not tightened yet. Goes in like that. See the little washer at the bottom with the nut, and now this part connects to that. So what I use to tighten is a long socket 14, an extension, because I tried to do it with the wrench and it's kind of tough. Like, I just feel like I couldn't get a good grip on it, so I literally just ran it like that. I put the socket on it first, and then I put the socket on it first, and then I just ran this like that, and then I just hand tightened it, and then I held this end with my other hand. And hand tighten should be fine. You don't want this to be too tight, because then the plastic will crack, and that seemed to work pretty good. Then put that in over there, run the line through, connect this end to over here where we tap the hole into, and then we'll fix the direction. I think it would go this way. I don't know, I have to check. Alright guys, so a few more modifications. I went ahead and cut this top part so that these cables go through nicely and they're not like being pinched or anything, so that it fits nice and smooth and it has room to play. Also, there's this little tab that goes on the top of this tab. I went ahead and just cut that off just because it was kind of like not allowing it to sit flush. It's hitting like this little plastic rivet, so I just went ahead and smoothened this out so that if it's extra flush. Probably don't have to do that. I did it. So cut the connector off of the fuel pump and the connector off from the stock plug, and use butt connectors. I'm still gonna use the heat shrink, but I butt connected them nice and snug. It should be touching and it should be good. I also recommend you guys use these metal butt connectors, not the plastic ones. The plastic ones are garbage. Probably gonna fall off and you're probably gonna fuck it up. So make sure you use good butt connectors like these metal ones and some heat shrink. Yeah, these are okay. These are pretty good, but you don't want to use like these ones. You know what I'm saying? Those are not good. So there you go. Went ahead and connected them. Use butt connector and heat shrink. And I used a little bit of tape on this one because this one I cut it a little long, so I just didn't want any wire to be exposed. So this one's good. This one's good. Looks nice and clean. And that is all done. So far we have this top fitting in now. We got the pump in, sitting flush. We got the thing wired. We got the fuel pump wired, power and ground. Looks nice and clean. So now we're gonna do the line that goes here to there. So I just connected it. It snaps right in. Feels nice and sturdy in there. Clip should clip right in, no issues. So my tuner recommended 50 psi for the fuel pressure, and I talked to CJM about that. I couldn't get a real good answer on how big to drill this out, so I watched the video of some guy do it. I'll put all the links I used for this in the description below. And he did his to 0.12 or 0.12, and I think I'm just gonna go with that. I was recommended to try 110, but I think 110 would be too small for a 525 pump. Trying to get 50 psi for the fuel pressure. There's no way of really knowing how big to drill this hole, so I'm gonna do a 1/8 bit for this and try that out. And then if I need to adjust fuel pressure, like if I need to make this hole bigger, I'll just have to remove the fuel pump from in the tank and drill this out a little bit more. But I'm gonna start with the 1/8 drill bit, and I'm just gonna drill that little hole out and see how it goes. Alright guys, so I'm going to start drilling out the Venturi pump. Remember, I'm going to use the 1/8 drill bit. That's going to be the end result. But I'm going to start with a bunch of smaller ones and work my way up to the 1/8. So that way, you know, it'll feel a little bit safer that way. Alright guys, so this is the 1/8 bit. You want to see, you want to be very careful not to go all the way through. You just want to tap into a little hole. You do not want to go past this and drill onto the other side, so be very careful. Do not pass it. I'm not quite sure if this is the right drill bit to get the right idle pressure for a Hellcat yet, but I will leave an update in the description to see if it worked out later on in the future. So, but from my knowledge, this is the one that works. Alrighty guys, all complete. Pump in, filter in, fuel return up to this line. I already tightened it. Filter up top, fitting up top, wired. There's the cuts that we did. Remember, we flattened that out. Now we just got to fit it in the basket. Alrighty, so once you're done with everything, you got the hose on, you hardwired it, you got the regulator, everything's on. You're gonna go ahead and put the fuel level sensor. This part goes in the front, this part with the little clip, because remember, it clips onto here. You just put the spring in there, and this thing goes into a little slit in there. And then the spring in the back side goes over here. And then you should be able to squeeze it down. I did remove my fuel filter because I felt like it was getting in the way, and I just didn't want any issues. And I have an external fuel filter from my fuel return system, so I don't really need it anyway. So once you're done with that, once you get this on, you're gonna put the connectors back in and put the fuel level sensor back where it belongs. And that is pretty much it. And then you should have already drilled this out, so now you just put this back where it belongs. And now you just plug this back in where you got it out from. And that is the complete Hellcat fuel pump for a 350Z swap.